Hello, and welcome to episode number 35 of the Music Relish Show, a music discussion podcast, and amongst other things that we also discuss. And tonight, Father's Day, we're going to talk about...
Father's Day.
Yeah, happy day, fathers. We're going to talk about some band album covers, some trivia, both picture and verbal. Perry's going to give Mark and I some tests, I'm assuming.
You are,
and we got some random relish, just some random facts about anything in particular. An album review. We're going to talk about a replacement, a drummer that replaced Ringo Starr for some shows in 1964, a guy named Jimmy Nicol. And I'm going to talk about the Hollywood Argyles, a little rock band from the early 60s, and whatever else pops into our heads. So, good evening.
Cool. Good evening.
All right.
Doing good.
Happy
nice to see you,
Father's
Lou.
Day.
Nice to see you, Perry.
Happy Father's Day,
Same.
everyone out there. All you fathers.
Yep. So.
All you fathers, take your places.
My papa was a rolling stone. So I'm going to start, since I get to host the show tonight. I'm going to start with a random topic.
Yeah,
and
cool.
let's have some fun. So Perry, we want to do some trivia?
When?
Kick it up now.
Let's do it.
Right
Let's
now?
do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't see Mark.
Get my mind working.
I'm moving my camera.
Okay.
I can see Mark.
I got to work this brain.
There he is.
Okay,
scared.
so
I'm nervous.
I've got some pictures of future rock stars when they were young. I just want to flash a picture out there and see if you can guess who it might be.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we
ready?
Are we being timed, or is this kind of free
No.
Okay.
All right, let's get this first one. See if you know who that might be. Give it a little thought. This is a future rock star.
Future rock. He's got a big collar on his shirt.
Axl Rose.
Alex Van Halen.
It is Axl Rose.
Wow.
That face.
All right, Mark.
Yep, Axl Rose.
This is for those watching on YouTube and Spotify. Otherwise, it's not helping. But that was Axl Rose.
Yeah.
I'd never have guessed that.
Okay, I've got another one. Can you guess this future rock star?
Stephen Stills.
Hopefully, anybody watching this, when they catch up with it, can.
It's a man with an acoustic guitar, and I agree with Lou. He does look like Stephen Stills. I'm going to go with that too.
Oh, I didn't hear. That's what you said, Stephen Stills?
Yeah.
Lou and me both. Yeah.
Oh, you're both correct. That is Stephen Stills.
Almost a monkey.
He was? I didn't know that.
I think he was going to try for the.
I've read that he was gonna be considered for to be a monkey. Yep.
Which one? Cool. I guess it would have been the Nesmith. Wait, did the wool hat come
Probably
with the job?
Would have been the guitar player. Yeah.
Yeah, but did Nesmith bring the wool hat, or was the wool hat given to Nesmith?
You know, I don't know if he. I don't know. Maybe he wore it to the try. What do they call that? They call it not a tryout. Audition. Yeah.
The hoof.
Okay, let's try this one. Can you name this future rock star?
Jimmy Page.
Cute kid, gotta say, cute kid, huh?
Yeah, good looking kid.
Yeah.
Mark, I was going to say Peter Gabriel, but I think you might be right. Looks like Jimmy Page.
So what do you say, Mark?
Jimmy Page.
And Lou?
A third distant guess. It was like Peter Gabriel, but I think it's Jimmy Page too.
You're both wrong. It's Joe Strummer.
Oh,
yes, it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
That's a rather highfalutin table he's sitting at for a future.
Well, he was a diplomatic kid. Don't forget.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yep.
That's right. We don't even know what country that's taken.
That's young. His real name was what? John Mellencamp, something like that.
Jiminy McStuffed.
Well, anyway,
so
that was
Joe Strummer wasn't his real name.
No. Okay, here's another one.
You learn something on every episode.
Can you guys guess this future rock star?
Roger Waters.
I'm going to agree, but I was going to say the guy from Nickelback.
It's Chad Kroger or whatever the guy's name.
No, it's Roger Waters.
Yeah.
He looks the same, only now with gray hair. You know?
Yeah,
You know what? I know Roger. I know all his pictures.
A little more ragged, though, from all the cigarette smoking, you know?
The guy from
And the
Nickelback.
Chardonnay.
I've just got a couple more. Can you guess this future rock star?
Oh,
think about it.
Oh my God! Yeah, Jack White.
Yeah.
You both agree?
Yeah.
It's Jack White.
It's Jack White.
Yep.
It's
Jack White.
Plain white tees.
Okay, I got two more. Here, can you guess this future rock star?
John Mellencamp. What's with the hair?
Axl Rose.
Carrot Top.
Oh.
Go ahead, give it a little thought.
Sammy Hagar.
I was going to say it's got to be California or the Midwest.
What a great picture.
What the hell?
It's Flea. No,
I'm going with Sammy too. All right, you're going with Flea?
It's Flea.
It's Flea.
Yeah. Did you say that, Lou?
I did.
Yeah, it's Flea. Yep.
That was my last pick. You know why? It's not. It's the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I've got two more. Okay. Here's another one. Can you guess this future rock star? This future rock star.
Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
It's Alice Cooper. Vincent Furnier.
Vincent Furnier.
Yep.
Son of a preacher man.
It looks just like him. I like that velvet collar. Didn't the Beatles have that?
Yeah. He was showing his influences in high school.
Okay, one more. No, two more. Okay, here we go. I'll keep discovering more.
Keeps finding more.
Who's this future rock star?
David Johansen.
It kind of looks like him, doesn't it? Yeah.
It looks English to me.
I'm
going to go with Keith Relf.
Mick Jagger.
It's Mick Jagger.
Yeah. The lips.
I was going to say he's from the UK. You would have got it anyway.
So did he go to his teacher and say, I busted a button on my trousers?
All right, one more. Future rock star. Here we go.
Two more. Nah. Slash.
That is Saul Hudson. Slash. Yep.
Wow.
Hey, Lou, we did good.
Yeah, not bad. Did we not get one or any?
You missed Joe Strummer.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad, though. How many did you show? About 8?
I showed about 8 of them, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Music Relish Show Picture Trivia. That was fun.
Yeah. I've got more trivia later on, too. Verbal trivia. A couple of questions. So where do you want to go, man?
All right. How about this?
Yes, sir.
I was going to do a thing about bands that were always supposed to be the next Beatles.
Yeah, yeah.
And once I started looking in, there were some obvious ones, but there was also like other ones that were just like Led Zeppelin. Some of these lists I saw were like, some of the bands were stupid. So I said, maybe not so much that, but in reading about, some of that stuff, I came across a guy that, we've all heard of him, but a lot of people don't. A guy named Jimmy Nicol, an English drummer. He filled in for Ringo Starr for 8 concerts in Australia on their 1964 world tour. Ringo came down with tonsillitis. So the decision was, do they carry on with a temporary drummer or do they cancel the part of the show? So in 64, that was just the height of Beatlemania. So George Martin recommended this drummer named Jimmy Nicol, who he'd worked with before. I think he did some sessions for a guy named, I think his name was Tommy Quickly. Some of those early English names are funny. Georgie Flame, Tommy Quickly, and
he's an accomplished drummer, though. Obviously, right?
Well, he was good. I mean, George Martin recommended him because of his previous work, so he filled in for Ringo, and he played really well. I saw one video of, I think it's All My Loving. He's playing a little bit differently. He had his own thing, but I mean, the guy was a very capable drummer.
Yeah.
But his thing was he thought that this was going to be his ticket to success and stardom. And as quickly as he became famous, he just disappeared right after that. Ended up filing for bankruptcy in 1965. So,
that's like the next year. Yeah,
after the next year. So George Martin, was it George Martin or no? Brian Epstein gave him a check. It was like £500, which in 1964 was like $10,000, which that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he did. He had other work in other bands. So he just whatever he thought was going to materialize, it did not.
Yeah. Yep.
So he retired in 1967. He was in a band called the Spotniks. I did a little reading on them. They were a Swedish instrumental band. They wore like these spacesuits and stuff like that.
I've heard you mention them in the past.
Yeah. They probably came up unrelated to Jimmy Nicol.
Yep.
Now his son Howard is a BAFTA, was a British Association for BAFTA, not NAFTA. It's called BAFTA.
Audio tape. They make audio tape, don't they, Mark?
I hate acronyms. I really hate them because you can come up with anything for an acronym. You know, it's like BAFTA. It's like the British Recording Society, I believe, right?
Sure,
it is.
Yeah, let's come up with some filthy acronyms for this. So his son Howard is a sound engineer. He was in a band called the Shub Dubs, which I think is a pretty cool name.
Was it a doo-wop group or?
No, they were like a skiffle and was more Merseyside bands. But when the time came to replace Ringo, apparently Lennon and McCartney were like, okay. Harrison said no, and he told him, he said, you're gonna have to get 2 replacements if Ringo doesn't do the tour. But they talked George into doing it, and pretty cool. So he became an entrepreneur after that in '67. He went to like house refurbishing and stuff like that, and pretty much left the music industry. Except
can you go back one few seconds, Lou? So you said that George Harrison did not want to go on without Ringo.
That's right, and George said he goes, you're gonna have to find 2 replacements.
Cool. So he's like Peter Buck when Bill Burry had his thing. You know, the company wanted the tour to go on. And Peter Buck's like, no.
Good
just cracked our drummer's head open like a coconut.
Yeah,
and we're not going on. Yeah.
Refund the people, redo this. Come back and play and give everyone the show. I think they probably did that.
Yeah. So George, stand-up guy, George Harrison.
Yeah, George was very loyal, and him and Ringo were tight. Ringo's all over a lot of George. With All Things Must Pass. I mean, a lot of those great songs have Ringo on the drums there.
Yeah.
But apparently George and Paul said yes pretty quickly. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
John and Paul.
I mean, John and Paul, rather.
Yep.
So apparently he's the verbal inspiration for the song "Getting Better." During that tour with all the craziness, he was relatively unknown, and then he's touring in the height of Beatlemania. So Paul or someone asked him how things are going. He goes, "Well, it's getting better. It's getting better." So that popped up.
And you're saying like Paul remembered that, and
Paul remembered that and used that, in Sgt. Pepper, like in '67. And also Tom Hanks, and he was on NPR. I think he was on Fresh Air, and he said that Jimmy Nicol's story was part of the inspiration for That Thing You Do, where the drummer gets to fill in.
Yeah.
The band takes off. So that's a pretty cool little footnote. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Skitch.
Skitch. Aren't you Skitch Wilbury?
I'm Skitch. Skitch Relish.
I'm Skids Wilbury.
No, you're Jimmy McStuffed. Old Jimmy McStuffed.
Jiminy. Get it right. Now, come on.
Yeah, so I thought cool little story. The guy, he wasn't bitter, but apparently here's a cool thing. It was at a press conference. Someone asked John Lennon why they didn't ask Pete Best back. So I know. I mean, I have an answer for that one. How many tempos can your song have? Your 2-minute pop song. But John, his answer was, well, we don't want Pete think that we were throwing a line out for him to actually come back to the band.
Yeah.
I should have known.
I've seen documentaries and read articles about, when Ringo filled in for Pete Best and, in Hamburg, like, oh yeah. And they're like, this is the guy. Because he could play that Ray Charles beat.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Mark?
I see a quote here from
What I Say beat, right?
Yeah. Yep. I see a quote here from Jimmy. He was actually a good guy because he said, after the money ran low, I thought of cashing in some way or other, but the timing wasn't right. And I didn't want to step on the Beatles' toes. They had been damn good to me. And that's nice. Like, he didn't cash in on any, like, being a Beatle. That's
Yeah.
His only lament was that he thought that would have been his springboard to something bigger.
Yeah.
But, it all depends upon the bands that you end up with. He was in the Beatles for 8 shows, but when you're in the biggest band in the world, you're going to go play with some skiffle guys in England, and they may be good, but they weren't the Beatles. So,
from obscurity pretty much to screaming people for, a week straight or more, and back to obscurity.
Yep.
Tough looking guy too.
Yeah, they gave him the Beatle haircut, and he was wearing Ringo's suits.
I was going to say, he had Ringo's kit? Did with the Beatles and
probably?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
Brian Epstein would have never. I mean, Brian Epstein probably had this whole thing happen, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, it's funny because George Martin said he was a very good drummer, and he goes he acquitted himself excellently. Like he learned Ringo's parts.
Yeah.
I heard on All My Lovin' he added some of his own stuff, which is pretty cool. So he wasn't doing the total Ringo aping, but but he had a good swing. The guy was he was a good enough drummer. Wasn't some fool.
So you've heard some of his stuff with the Beatles, right?
I just saw the video of All My Lovin', and it was good. I mean, they sounded tight, good groove. You can tell, the way the other Beatles were playing, they were comfortable with him as a drummer, and he was very much in command of his aspect of the band.
I'm going to find that. I'm going to find that out there on the internet of him playing with the Beatles and putting his own little flair on it in parts.
I'm just going to say he did a better job than Pete Best.
Yeah, I can do a better job than Pete Best, and I can't use my feet when I play drums.
That subject has come up the other day. I was playing down at Steve's and I was hitting the floor tom. I said, "This is how Perry plays." I'm doing floor tom and Terry. I said, "Perry can't use his feet."
I could, but it's too much effort.
Okay.
The heart of a slacker.
Trying to keep that beat, hey, anybody can keep a beat, right? No.
That's not true.
Not me.
True.
Not true at all. Yeah.
A friend sent me a YouTube video. It's Alex Van Halen, Ginger Baker, and I forgot the other drummer. They're talking about just drumming, and Alex is talking about playing in Cream. And there's this brief clip of Ginger Baker, and he's just casually doing this, like each limb's doing a different rhythm. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
We were talking to your son before the show, Lou, and he said something about I want to learn guitar. Yeah, he said I want to learn guitar, but I don't know. Like he alluded that he wasn't ready. I said, if you can play drums, you can play anything. Drums is for me, it's impossible. I've tried so many times.
People say that with piano too. But
I guess it's whatever you're prone to. Like some people are more natural at certain instruments than others, so they'll say it's easy. Because for them, it may have been easier, To
have the fundamentals of rhythm, kind of, it's all instruments, especially rock and roll, it's all about rhythm. He was playing some bass with my friend down the road, and he said he
likes playing bass, yeah.
Boom, boom. So that's pretty much on Jimmy Nicol, like a kind of a cool story, plucked from obscurity, faded back into obscurity, but it didn't ruin him. He wasn't bitter. And
good,
right? And he didn't do like John Lennon's father, who cut a 45,
right?
And it's called "That's My Life." That's my life. Like just trying to get it, just trying to get some money out of it. Jimmy McNichol didn't go that route.
No,
he had a little more class.
Yeah, right.
Okay, you did mention Van Halen. You just mentioned Alex Van Halen.
Well, they were talking. It was an interview with like him talking about him seeing Ginger Baker play on Cream and hearing Cream records, and him as a drummer just realizing goes what the guy was playing it seemed simple at times, but it wasn't. It's just every time I hear him, I hear something different. Sunshine Your Love can't get old with me because I always hear something different on the drums that I didn't notice before. It's mind boggling. I don't know.
Yeah,
and he probably wasn't even thinking about doing that. He just did. You don't go say, "I'm going to change the world of drumming on this one song." You don't think about doing that, or you're an idiot. But
the reason I said it is because his brother kind of changed the world as far as guitar playing goes.
He did.
But then I read a thing where, and we've discussed this in the past, Mark and Lou, about him playing the guitar solo on "Beat It."
Yeah.
Right, and apparently Eddie said that he also, like the pre-chorus or something, he changed it a little bit to make it more suitable because Michael had written the song and didn't have it arranged. Anyway, Eddie told him like, well, I rearranged the song a little bit and I hope you don't mind. Yeah. And when you
hear that solo, when it comes to the solo, you can actually imagine yourself in the studio because he goes and he starts playing, and then at the end of the solo he does this. I think he just lowers his whammy bar down solo. You actually hear like the strings knocking on the pickups. You go right at the end, and that is a one take solo, and he is beautiful.
Now, did you read that Pete Townsend was first called to do the guitar solo on that song?
I didn't know
that.
Yeah,
really?
I read that. The Pete Townsend was the first one called to say, would you like to do a guitar solo on this Michael Jackson song? And Pete said, it's too busy. It's not for me. And apparently he suggested Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, he did. He suggested.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, who suggested Pete Townsend? I mean,
Peter Townsend.
Interesting choice. But was that Quincy Jones?
Suggested Q to get Eddie Van Halen. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if Q was the one that said, I'd like Pete Townsend. Like, how did they come up with his name?
I wouldn't think Pete Townsend for a solo.
Maybe they were just
Michael could be a fan. You don't know.
Yeah.
I think Quincy was trying to think of a rock guitarist because he wanted to get Michael Jackson a broader audience. So he's probably thinking of someone from the rock side that would do it. He already had Toto on a bunch of cuts. He had Steve Lukather doing a lot of stuff. He was using some of Toto's songwriting on it.
Steve Lukather has the riff, right?
Yeah.
So he probably said, I got to get some. They probably had it in their mind to get some big guitar player in there. And it worked.
And I've read interviews with studio musicians, and the guy who played like on excuse me, on some of those Monkey songs and whatever, he'll get a check in 3 months for 100. So in other words, Eddie did not get paid anything,
nothing,
for that. He didn't say I'll do it for free. He just didn't get any credit or anything or any monetary compensation for that.
Anything.
Maybe not, but when a record sells that much, those would be significant checks.
Well, yeah, but I guess he could have attached himself to it or gone through a lawsuit to do it, but he didn't. So that's pretty cool. That same video, or I got another video from the same person, and it's the Van Halen brothers speaking. And it's a Dutch interview, so they're speaking in Dutch. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's right. They speak fluent Dutch, right?
Yeah. So there were subtitles underneath it. So basically just talking about, their upcoming tour. But they seem like pretty cool guys. I mean, I never heard Alex Van Halen speak for very long. But even Eddie, it was early on in their career. So they were drinking Heinekens because they're Dutch.
Heinies.
Well, it could be Grolsch too, right?
Grolsch.
Little side note, do you know, like Mark was telling us recently that Bill Lear invented the 8-track cartridge?
Frank Sinatra.
Right?
Wait, yeah. Bill Lear?
Bill Lear of the jet, plane fame, Learjet. My old boss, Dick, used to, his name was Dick. Okay, Richard. He worked for him. And just say, if you don't remember, Frank Sinatra wanted a portable format for his car, for his limo, to play music because records just wasn't. So the 8-track was developed by Bill Lear with my old boss, and he claimed that those original 8-track tapes, it was real 1/4-inch tape. The pucks were like on an Ampex tape machine. Yeah, they were high quality because they were shit later on 8-tracks. Go ahead, Perry. I'm sorry.
No. That's why I
Frank
brought it up,
Sinatra
because
had that done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had it done.
And you know how Frank was so crazy about retaining control of his music? That's why he opened Reprise Records.
Yeah.
So when they demonstrated to Frank the very first 8-track, there were no 8-tracks available. So Dick's job was to record one of Frank's albums onto 8-track, and they're playing it, and Frank liked it. And then Frank said, "Whoa, who recorded my music onto this 8-track?" And Dick said he got like, "You never sweat so much." Yeah.
Wow.
And they had to say, I think that either they destroyed it or gave it to him. If he knew you were recording his stuff, he went nuts.
Wow.
So.
But they did catch on. Like certain formats didn't catch on. Digital audio tape never really caught on.
Not really. No, I've got some DAT tapes of recording studio stuff.
Yeah, because you guys were in the studio one time and it was actually converted to DAT or recorded on DAT.
DAT was necessary because as music went to digital, we did have to have a format to put it digitally. It was either that or Betamax, which we would do too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the best format for digital. Until now, it's just like it goes on. Hard drives back then were small. So
but they never caught on like Sony had hoped that they would.
No, they didn't. Yeah. And you know why? A digital tape, like if you have a cassette and it's got a tiny wrinkle in it, you're either going to hear a slight dropout or nothing at all. On a DAT or a Beta, for that matter, even if it just lifts from the head slightly, you get a total dropout. That was the problem with DATs. So if a DAT went bad, you were done. You were sunk.
Well, in 1978, 8-track tapes sold over 133 million of them in 1978.
78 still?
Yeah, that's when it was at its peak.
I thought it was over in 75. It was 78 still.
Yeah, well, it hung on there, because I think they sold a lot of players too for cars.
Yeah, right? I remember hearing Candio on 8-track. My sister was buying them in 79, 80. Yeah,
and he had the big home stereo console.
Yeah. Some had like 8-track and cassette, and but
phonograph.
So 133 million 8-tracks were sold in 1978. By 1980, 2 years later, sales were eclipsed by cassettes. By
because they went in cars. Cars started getting cassette players.
Yep. So that was the death knell of 8-track tapes.
A portable media too. More portable things,
The difference players. Between 8-track and cassette, you could record on the cassette. They did have recordable 8-track and never got on. That's why cassette ruled, because you could make your own. The industry didn't like that.
Can you imagine a portable 8-track player? Thing would be heavy, man. I had a little handheld cassette player. It didn't weigh but a pound or two. Yeah.
Did I ever tell you what happened to my Sony Walkman?
Does it have something to do with vomit?
Has to do with a lot of vomit.
And a whole lot of vomit. Song called "Take Me Away," maybe. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh wait, sorry, Tom. We said BOC.
That's right, we did. I listened to Fire of Unknown Origin yesterday on the way to work. On the way to the center.
Did I.
On the way to my church gig. Did you really?
I played it on the way to work Thursday, and then I continued listening at work. Synchronicity.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I used to hang out with a guy from Lodi, and he referred to Blue Oyster Cult as Blue Oyster Cult.
Like in the wine industry, it's not Merlot, it's Merlot.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
Remember that song, Diamond Girl by Seals and Crofts?
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. David Page played keyboards and organ and piano on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that might be Jimmy Gordon on drums.
It might be. Yep.
The late great Jimmy Gordon.
And had Louis Shelton on guitar, of course, is the great studio.
The guy, Louis Shelton, yeah. He played
Louis Shelton.
He played on something you mentioned earlier, too.
He played on Last Train to Clarksville. He played on Boss Gags, Silk Degrees. He was the guy. Yeah.
He's the guitar player on Lowdown.
He is. He did the guitar solo. Yep. Right. He did Jackson 5.
Oh, really?
Stop. You better.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
He produced those Seals and Crofts records.
He did. Yeah.
So, he produced them and played on them. Yeah.
Hey, Lou. On the album Diamond Girl, there were 3 drummers, and it's a pretty good Jim Gordon, John Guerin, I've heard of him, and 4 drummers, Harvey Mason, Jeff Porcaro.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
That's a great lineup of drummers.
I think on that song, Jeff Porcaro might be playing along with David Page.
Does it say who's the drummer on Diamond Girl?
No, I looked it up on Wikipedia. It didn't give a track listing of the artists.
When we did our Jim Gordon segment a couple of weeks back, there were some things in there were kind of mushy between him and Jeff Porcaro. It might have been on Diamond Girl. We might be revisiting this.
Yeah.
Because they both appeared on a Steely Dan album.
Yeah, and I could hear both of them play. It almost sounds more like Porcaro.
Yeah, and
that he does that backward drum fill almost like Roger Taylor does on You're My Best Friends. And Ringo starts the floor time.
But that guy David Page, man, and then of course they became Toto, right?
Yeah.
Him and Jeff Porcaro, and
that was 73. Porcaro was like a teenager at that point. Same with Page.
Was it the Porcaro brothers whose father was a famous musician, or was it Page's?
Both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah.
David's father was Marty Page, and he was like in Hollywood and stuff.
He was an orchestrator or something like that, right?
And Porcaro, I don't know what the father's name was.
They lived in Connecticut. Mary. They grew up in the what's the big city in Connecticut? But he was an East Coast jazz guy. Yeah.
And the ghost of older Jeff Porcaro is homeless in Nashville. I've seen this guy walking around. I'm like, who does he look like? I said, if Jeff Porcaro had lived a longer time and hit the skids, he'd look like this guy. It's kind of weird.
Maybe he's Maybe it's him.
Our burgeoning.
Interestingly, I saw an interview with Hal Blaine, Earl Palmer.
He sucked. That guy couldn't play it. He couldn't swing a sack of shit.
Jim Keltner
in rhythm.
And Chad Smith.
Wow.
I saw that.
So they're all talking together at Hal Blaine's house.
Yeah.
And of course, Jeff Porcaro, the subject of Jeff Porcaro comes up because,
really?
they're just, Yeah. Jim Gordon was the one who really appreciated him the most, it sounds like. Jim Keltner, rather.
Okay.
Jim Keltner, yeah.
Appreciated Porcaro.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because if Jim Gordon was there, there would have been a lot of police around too,
I've got one more strange little random relish thing. I thought it was kind of weird.
We've been randoming after the Jimmy Nickel segment.
We've just been, let's ramble, man. Yeah.
I mean, that ramble.
So, 1967, George Harrison rents a house in Los Angeles on Blue Jay Way.
Mm-hmm.
And he arrived, they got in late and they were really tired, but George was waiting for Derek Taylor. And he's like, and he calls Derek, he's like, come on, hurry up, man. Like, we got to go to sleep. We just got in. We're tired. She's already sleeping. Let's get on with it. But he was stuck in traffic or whatever, So George threw in those lines, please don't be long. Please don't you, because I may be asleep.
It's the whole part of the song.
And that's what he threw in there, waiting for Derek Taylor.
That's true. That was during George's very disillusioning visit to Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah.
Remember the
was
picture
scared.
of him with the heart-shaped sunglasses? He's playing an acoustic
guitar. He got out of
guitar.
Frisco and went down to L.A. Yep.
Yeah, but he was expecting flower, children, and peace and love, and he got
violence.
Homeless
very
hippies.
weird.
People, strung out people. A lot of people that got sucked into the that mythological idea of it's just paradise, and paradise pays for itself. Paradise is full
paradise
of
became a
free
parking lot.
food. That's right.
So George Harrison rents a house on Blue Jay Way.
Wow.
And creates that song.
There's a fog upon LA.
Interesting. What? Yeah. Yep.
I learned how to snap my fingers in time.
What? Snap your fingers?
In time, in rhythm.
Mark first.
So if anyone wants to sing.
Simon and Garfunkel. Okay. Simon and Garfunkel in 1969.
Do you mean Paulie Simon and Artie Garfunkel?
Paulie Simon and Artie Garfunkel.
Right. Okay.
Rent a house in Los Angeles in 1969, and they create. I've talked in the past about how him and his brother Eddie Simon, they created that beat
Guitar
for
Study Center
for Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. That boom, like They just put that on a cassette, and they got the engineer at the studio to do it. And in that house that they rented, he wrote "Bridge Over Troubled Waters."
Oh, really? Wow!
It was the exact same house that George Harrison rented on Blue Jay Way 2 years earlier.
Oh, very cool.
The same house.
Wow. Not to knock George, but Paul wrote a masterpiece in that. So Blue Jay Way is not a masterpiece. It's a cool album cut. It's creepy.
Yeah.
It's very creepy.
Bridge Over Troubled Water is.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was Artie Garfunkel's tour de force. That was
Paul knew he's the guy to sing it. Yep.
Yeah.
But in that same house, Blue Jay Way,
wow,
they wrote Cecilia and Bridge Over Troubled Water.
That's a better story than the Harry Nilsson apartment that Mama Cass and Keith Moon died in.
Yeah. Which
Sell
was
that
Ringo's
flat
apartment or something. It was Ringo's, wasn't it?
I thought it was or maybe did Nilsson buy it from Ringo? I thought it was Harry Nilsson's.
Remember that big white house that John Lennon and Yoko used to live in there in
Tittenhurst Park?
Yeah, Ringo bought that from John.
Wow.
Ringo after they left, Ringo bought it, and his whole family lived there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And when Judas Priest recorded British Steel, the album with Living After Midnight, they recorded at Tittenhurst Park.
Really? At that studio that he built there, yeah.
And on top of that,
dang, cool.
On top of that, when Black Sabbath, which we're going to refer to later, were recording Mob Rules for the heavy metal movie soundtrack, the cartoon movie. They were recording there, and they were just like they could feel the history oozing out of the walls of what So it was like two big heavy metal bands recording there.
Did the white piano come with it that he wrote Imagine on?
You know what?
I don't know.
Listen, I think
that probably ended up in the Dakota.
No,
probably.
Look it up because Rob Halford talked about some of the stuff in the house being from John Lennon. I don't know about the piano, but he was really like it was overwhelming for them, Judas Priest.
But cool that he sold it to Ringo, and then Ringo sold it to someone else. I guess after he was through with it, kept
it in the family. That's in the that's the same residence where that deranged American kid showed up. Remember?
Yes, yeah.
Lyrics are all bullshit. Don't make anything
just like
of
you.
them.
I'm just like
there
you.
Was a guy. We saw that clip. There was a guy ready to pounce.
Oh yeah.
If, when John and Yoko were out front, and he's like, but then you wrote that song. He's like, Paul wrote that song.
Once again, John has to face that stuff.
Fuck me.
We really love Yesterday, Mr.
But
Lennon.
when you said this,
Yeah.
John said it. I mean, Paul
was
said
that big
it,
Mel Evans that was going to pummel him? The kid made a
no,
false
it
move.
was just, I don't know who it was. It might have been one of the engineers. It might have been like Phil McDonald. Bloody hell, Philip. I don't know.
That's right.
But anyway, if that guy would have approached and come anywhere near John, that guy would have pounced on him. Yeah.
Well, a couple years.
John brought him in, gave him some food, right?
Yeah. A couple years after John's murder, I was at a Zildjian Day drum clinic in New York, and I'm pretty sure I was several seats away from Yoko with people.
Oh wow!
But you wouldn't think of approaching or even looking that way.
What do you mean? I mean, if you might get jumped. I mean, I think it
could. I would never approach you. I mean, but just because you got to go out in public. You can't live in a shelter. But like 4 years after his murder, just to approach her, went out.
She's right there behind me. Can you see her?
That's right.
Lou, you would have heard, "Stay away from my mom," and the last thing you would have seen was Sean's fist coming right towards you.
His little 7-year-old fist.
Stay away from my mom.
I gotta tell you, I had the Instant Karma 45, and the flip side was a Yoko song called "Who Has Seen the Wind."
Oh wow!
And
really?
I used to listen to both sides. It was "Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I."
I've heard,
but when the trees go passing through the window, something to that effect.
Wow, that was a good rendition.
Yeah,
it's not like Bowie.
I was thinking Perry Como.
I saw a comedian, and he only did he impersonated people with one word. So he would do like Christopher Walken. He'd go, "Wow!" Like he was supposed to. Yeah, he got it. He nailed it with one word. It might have been like Dana Carvey or somebody like that.
That's pretty good. One word. All right, so are we veering off the random here to another subject here?
Yeah.
Mark, we mentioned Black Sabbath before, so why don't we do a perfect segue into your album review? You're going to talk about an album you received.
It might be a good idea because in our good friend Scott McLean's Milk Crates and Turntables show, one of the reviews of the show was that the one guy drinks wine and gets drunker through the show. So, it might be a good idea to do my segment now,
And the other guy with the Boston accent says, "Fuck a lot."
Okay, I'm reviewing something. It's the deluxe edition of Black Sabbath Live Evil. Now, I'm glad to bring it up because this album is momentous to me. And I'll just give you a quick background. It came out in 1983. It was, for all intents and purposes, my introduction to Black Sabbath, only because I was in Zion Lutheran School in 8th grade, all nervous about going into high school, scared shitless. I had already started listening to Ozzy Osbourne. And this album came out, and WPLJ, our New York radio station, rock radio, don't say classic because at the time there was just rock radio, played it over the weekend. It was a holiday weekend. They played it in its entirety over and over. Carol Miller was playing it. And what made it really kind of big was it was the first official live album they put out, and it had Ronnie James Dio on vocals. He had been in the band on 2 albums. So for my generation, and I have many friends from high school that attest to this, it's kind of our special time of the band. Like for us, that was we thought Ronnie did a great job. He sings. It's also the only time that you had an official live release with somebody other than Ozzy singing the Ozzy songs. So they put out this album, Live Evil, and if it's funny, Live Evil backwards is Live Evil.
Yeah.
The recording was less than stellar. They didn't get a producer, so when they recorded it, as Tony Iommi said, we just mic'd the cabinets, the drums.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't think to mic the audience. So what you got is it's a very strange sounding album. It sounds heavy. It's like to me, it's like the precursor of the 80s dark metal. But the audience is a whisper. You barely hear them. And that was kind of like strange. Live albums, you want to hear the audience.
Yeah.
There was also, it was after their 2 albums that they did together. They did Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. The mixing of this album, the rumor was that Ronnie was really wanting to go out on his own. He knows he turned the band around, so he was taking control.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor was that Ronnie was going into the studio remixing. Then Tony Iommi would go in, the guitar player, and turn down Ronnie's vocals. They split up before the album ever came out. So bam, the band was done. After that.
Wow.
For years, we all talked about it came out on CD. Record company was cheap, put the double album on one CD, so they would have to cut the talking in between songs. It didn't sound like a live album. So what they finally did was they got the master tapes. They put this really, this is how you do.
Who are they?
Tony Iommi's overseeing it ultimately. Mm-hmm. All Black Sabbath albums are coming out in these deluxe treatments. He's doing a good job on them.
It's got Geezer Butler and Bill Ward on it.
No, Vinny Appice.
Well, Bill Ward was not there.
Bill Ward. Okay, so Bill Ward played on Heaven and Hell, the album. He started to tour with them, and he dropped out abruptly. He just called up one day and said, "I'm out." And Vinny had to step in and learn everything in a weekend, and he did. He's great. He did it, which attests the reason and shows how much I liked him, because when they reformed with Ronnie James Dio in the 90s, they brought Vinny back in. And then when the band Heaven and Hell, they couldn't call themselves Black Sabbath because of Sharon. So until Ronnie James Dio's death, they had a band called Heaven and Hell. It was Black Sabbath with Vinny on drums, but they couldn't, they had to call themselves that because Black Sabbath was moot. But anyway, what makes this so good for people like me is they put out a hardcover book, which I'm just showing, all about, this was in a really big time in their career. But the big thing for me was they remixed it. So the box has the original release, remastered. Sounds about the same. Then they have a remixed one. And if you just know anyone that knows this album and talk to them, they'll be like, wow, remixed. And yeah, they got the sound stellar. They also restored a lot of the talking in between tracks that Ronnie was, talking and stuff. So it became more of a live album.
So
go ahead.
Where did this take place when you said Tony went in and lowered the vocal? What studio were they at? Well,
they were in LA. They were in LA. And that was the rumor, right? That Tony was turning down Ronnie's parts. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of friction. Tony, if you read Tony's autobiography, he made a lot of bad decisions. If he had kept Ronnie James Dio, they wouldn't have went through that period where no one knew who they were. They just did album after album. Nobody was hearing about them. After this incarnation, they got Ian Gillan on one album. I love that album, but
Black Sabbath.
Tony's hard to work with. Yeah, Born Again.
I read that. Yep.
Yeah, it's a great album. They have a song called Trashed. It's a horrible album cover, probably the worst album cover ever made. But
what is that?
It's a devil baby, but it's almost in a Andy Warhol type, cartoonish image. It's just so garish. Look it up sometime. Born Again, Black Sabbath.
Oh, that's good, because later on I'm going to talk about band album covers. Yeah.
It wasn't banned, but it was bad.
BANNED.
What I'm going to say is that BADDED. What I'm just going to say is if you're going to do a deluxe edition of an album and you want to not bullshit your fans, but you want to give them your money's worth, this is how you do it. And I think anyone that liked the original album will agree with me that this is 5-star. I have a friend from high school on Facebook that said the same thing. I can die in peace now. The album got treated,
wow.
Well. But yeah.
Weird how it says, so Live Evil, it's like a double, what is that, a palindrome? Where it's back, so it's like a double, right? Yeah,
Live Evil.
Yeah.
Yep. And, all the stuff on the cover represents Black Sabbath songs. Children of the Grave, Voodoo, Heaven and Hell. Yeah, I love it. It was a great album cover. It was that was the beginning of you could look at the album cover, Heavy Metal Years. What does it mean?
And the fact that Ronnie James Dio was a very well respected and loved singer, it wasn't like they got some turkey or some fill-in guy. He was legitimate. He was a contender for, as far as great metal singers.
He was coming off of Rainbow. Yeah. And they got him in.
I got to tell you, sorry, Mark. I just saw that documentary, that rockumentary on Dio. It's on cable or one of those channels.
I haven't seen it yet. I have to see.
I've seen it. It's really good. And like this guy, even if he was playing in front of 300 people, he gave it like he was playing in front of 30,000 people.
Right.
He just always did that.
So my favorite club in Poughkeepsie is the Chance, and I think it holds 700 people max. It's a big old burlesque theater, right? I know someone that saw Dio there because Dio, like every metal band from the 80s, went through their lean years. He said, I felt like I was in an arena. Ronnie came out and he was there was no, sometimes you see artists in smaller venues and they kind of give you it, like you can see they're not into it. Not Ronnie Dio. He just loved playing music and he loved his fans,
It's gratitude, basically saying, you're grateful that little people, at least someone came out to see you. And the fact that, these guys, they care about what they're doing. So whether there's 300 people, those 300 people love you and you got to, do it.
That's it.
Max Weinberg did the same thing with his pickup band, where he played Asheville at the Dinah Wortham Theater. There could have been more seats filled, but the fact that he played like he was playing at a giant stadium.
Right. Yep. Well, as a footnote in the book that came with it, they allude to that whole thing about the mixing, and maybe Tony Iommi's just trying to put it to bed and be nice. But what he claimed was the guy that was the engineer in the studio that was assisting with the remixing. He was claiming these things, and then they found out that he was just drinking his face off. He was drunk, and it could be the engineer that caused all that. It would be sad to think that the band split up because of that, but maybe he's lying. I don't know. It was a heady time. Lots of egos. Black Sabbath was more popular album sales with Ronnie Dio.
Wow.
This album went up to number 38 for a heavy metal album, double album to hit 38 on the Billboard charts. That's pretty damn good.
He's almost like what Sammy Hagar was to Van Halen. Because he's technically a better singer than Ozzy. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Ozzy as a singer. I like some Black Sabbath. I mean, the original stuff is good. I was never a big fan, but I like a lot of it. But there was something about, Ozzy's voice. It can only do so much with it. Ronnie James Dio had more of a scope with his voice.
To me, Dio was too operatic for me. It was
and I still think Chris Cornell from Soundgarden does it. I mean, I thought he'd take many pages from Ronnie James Dio.
Oh, that guy had a voice, man.
But I heard Black Hole Sun yesterday, actually, and that Black Hole Sun, that's Ronnie James Dio. I mean, he's doing almost like an impersonation.
Him doing the Mallorca, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I've spoken about that. Like, I couldn't stand it when I used to see the video, but when you heard it on the radio, wow, that song's going to be as classic as All Right Now by Free. It's just going to,
yes, it is.
It's just going to be one of those songs that's going to live forever in rock history.
Yep.
By the way, DJ,
no, it's a very apt point that you made. I mean, that song is up there with "Don't Fear the Reaper." You shook me.
Yep.
You can go back further, but that'll always be a top classic rock played forever song. That's what's good. And I hope they like the song for that and don't feel bad about it, because that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'd like to write a song that live forever. How about you?
Well, me too.
Why not?
Here's a little trivia. Do you know what year Ronnie Dio's first single came out? It was when he started recording.
I'm going to guess late 60s. No, I'm going to guess way back.
1917.
No, I'm going to guess 1960.
57.
1960.
I think it's 58. Maybe it's 57 or 58. So when he died and people were like, oh my God, he died. It's like the guy's when he joined Rainbow, he was like in his 40s. He was 40.
Yeah.
God bless him.
But people speak well of him, though.
Yeah. Nice guy. Very nice guy.
And in his defense, too, at that time, Bruce Dickinson, these guys were singing like that's what singing was in that community. Was that type of singing. Yeah.
It was operatic, and these guys had they had at least a 3-octave range to their voice, I would think. And not everybody has that. Not even a lot of great singers don't have a 3-octave range, but they have a great sounding voice. But like these guys had that thing,
Yep.
The guy from Queensryche.
Jeff Tate.
Yeah, Jeff Tate.
Great singer.
I have a 1 octave range, I think.
I have a mono range.
I have a 0.05.
Was that your breathalyzer? Come on.
I want another octave. Where can I get one?
Amazon.
So,
Pep Boys.
Mark, so now, what record label was that on?
You know what? They were on Warner Brothers. I don't know what this is.
Did they have their own label?
It's BMG. Yeah, it's they're for better or for worse. I wanted to get their volume. Do you remember they had an album called Volume 4 that had they put that out in the deluxe treatment too. And I want to get these because it's like the Jethro Tull reissues. It's quality. You're gonna spend the money, but if you like that album, like I have the Aqualung reissue. I want to get the Heavy Horses, but they put they remix it. So Jethro Tull, Steve Wilson, my guy, remixed it.
Right.
So you're getting 2 versions of the album, extras. This one doesn't really have extras, but the studio albums, they'll put out performances on BBC. They'll put a DVD of video stuff. It's so it's worth the price. Although my son bought it for me. Anthony, thank you. It was a great birthday present.
Nice.
Well, a lot of there's a new Todd Rundgren compilation box set thing coming out too. Like, a lot of them, like Ryko Disc and Rhino Records, they continue to do these sort of things.
You got to do it with quality. Right? You got to give a better sound. You got to give people reason. If you don't do it right, their labels, I get mad because if they get people to plunk down $40 or $50 and it sounds no different, that's schlock,
Mm-hmm.
But give the fans something that they want, and especially us, like we're older. So a fan from the 70s or 80s, they're getting older. Give us something to live with,
Yep.
So
give us something good and.
Yep. What was that song? Cool. Give me something to leave.
Give me something.
Yeah.
Tell me something good. So I got a question though. Ian Gillan's tenure in Black Sabbath, was it contentious? It was just one.
It
one
was
album.
meant.
Was
Ian
it a
knew.
tour even?
Ian wasn't going to join. The story is that he got really drunk with Tony at the bar. The next day, Ian's manager called him. He's hungover and he says, "So we got to sign the papers. You joined Black Sabbath." So he joined. Really? But I think even when he joined, he knew that Deep Purple were going to reform. So that was a one-off tour. I saw that tour. Don't ask me. I was young. I was really young. And I just remember it being so loud, my ears hurt for a week. It was too loud. They had the Stonehenge set. There was a famous, and they were compared to Spinal Tap because Spinal Tap did it at the time.
18 inches.
Yeah. But it was not a bad album. It's trashy. It's really trashy. It's dark. And I don't think they fought, but Ian's heart was like, "Hey, this is a gig. I signed. I said I joined. I got to do it," and he did it, and that was it. And Ian was a screamer at the time. He was really shrill, so that's what hurt my ears when I saw him in concert. It's like every time he screamed, I'd be like, "Oh,
I seen some live footage of him recently, and to me, it was almost like, it's almost too much. He was doing some like vocal one-offs, kind of histrionic stuff, but. Yeah, I'm like probably it would have sounded better a few years ago. Before that,
he was a hard rock Little Richard. I always thought. If you listen to what's the first song on In Rock? Dun-dun, good golly, said a little Miss Molly in the House of Blue Light. Speed King. Sorry, Speed King. If you listen to that's the one that showed me that Ian Gillan is totally influenced by Little Richard. Really? He screams. Yeah, he's
cool.
Yeah.
All right, so. That was a good segment. How about, do we have any more trivia? Or how about some band album covers?
I've got some trivia and band album covers. Which do you want to tackle first? Some verbal trivia?
It sounds like abuse.
Oral trivia?
Sweet Connie.
AURAL or ORAL, Mark?
Okay, I've got a trivia question.
You're in town.
I've got a trivia question. Can you name the famous star from the 1950s? Can you name the famous song where the drummer played his knees on the record?
Every Day.
Yeah,
Buddy Holly.
It's wrong. It's Every Day by Buddy Holly.
Wrong.
Who was that? Who was the drummers? Allison?
Jerry Allison.
Yeah.
Yep.
Played his knees. I guess they. Yeah.
co-writer of some stuff.
Not Bernard?
No pretty to be found.
I have another one here. Can you name the first female artist to win in the same year, album of the year, song of the year, record of the year? 1972. Won
Carole
4
King.
Grammys. She won 4 Grammys. Album of the year, song of the year, and record of the year, and one other category, whatever.
Carole King, Tapestry.
I'm going with that too.
It's Carole King, Tapestry.
Oh, we were wrong.
Oh, did you say that?
I did.
Yeah, it was album of the year. Song of the year was what was the big one? I Feel the Earth Move On. No, it was
You Got a Friend?
Nope, there was another big one.
The one Aretha Franklin did.
No.
Natural Woman?
No.
I Feel
Carole
the
King
Earth.
on Tapestry. She had
It's Too Late.
You're so far away. Maybe there's no one place anymore.
Far away.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that might have been the song of the year. Or
Really?
one of those. Yep.
Or it wasn't. It's Too Late. It wasn't Jazzman because
It was. It's Too Late, baby.
Okay.
That was the song of the year, the big one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I guess they were giving it out for. They still had 45s back then. So yeah.
Not Natural Woman, huh? Wow.
No, she didn't do Natural Woman.
Yeah,
on,
she did. She wrote it. She recorded on that album
on Tapestry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
She wrote it for Carol.
It's her song.
Yeah,
but it was.
Damn it.
It's Too Late, and it was the flip side of It's Too Late was I feel the earth move under my feet.
Great song.
What a great single, man.
The guitar is great. It's not
Cooch.
No, that's Waddy Wachtel, I think.
That's Waddy Wachtel.
Bow, 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 bow.
Wait, no, wait. I'm looking at Waddy Wachtel's not on the album at all. It's Cooch.
He's not on that
Danny
album?
Korchmar?
Yeah.
Danny Korchmar.
I don't see Waddy Wachtel listed on that album at all.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
He was Mellow Mafia though. That was the Mellow Mafia.
Yeah.
That's Russ Kunkel on drums, correct?
Yeah. Well, there's 2 drummers, Russ Kunkel and Joel O'Brien. But I'm sure Russ Kunkel probably did the majority.
And Lee Sklar was not on the record.
Nope.
Correct.
Nope.
That's right.
It was Charles Larkey and
her
Perry.
Husband. Yeah. Guy she married. Yeah.
Perry Steinberg. Perry and Charles Larkey.
Charles Malarkey.
Malarkey. Hey, Maluch, how you doing?
Hey. Don't go breaking my balls. I couldn't if I tried. Don't go busting my chops.
Girl, I heard you're fucking Larry.
Oh. The show is officially going off the rails.
Yeah,
well, I've got one more. It's got to go a
little bit once in a while. Come on.
You know the song by the Foo Fighters called Everlong.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The backing vocals were sung by Louise Post from Veruca Salt.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she phoned it in.
She literally
phoned it in.
Literally phoned it in.
Literally phoned it in. Because they couldn't make the session or something, so she phoned it in, and they put a microphone by the telephone speaker, and that was her backing vocal on Everlong.
But there's also ways to process that. You can take a telephone call and process it in the recording studio and make it sound better. What was the name of the first single that he did all the instruments? When I talk about it, I carry on.
Yeah,
it's like Mr. Big Head or Mr. Something Head, Mr. Big Something, Mr. Big Boy Pants.
I got to tell you, I read about this new Beatles single, and I'm with Scott McLean on this one. Like, there's so much AI. It's a different, there's so much AI. Like, in other words, any algorithm, like say a YouTube's algorithm, where it suggests videos for you, it pictures, that's AI. There's nobody there monitoring it. That's all artificial intelligence. Is those algorithms, but. If I'm with Scott, if they generated John Lennon's voice through AI, no, that ain't no friggin' Beatles. That ain't no Beatles song.
No, why did Paul do that? Just to be relevant? I haven't heard it. I kind of don't want to hear that stuff just yet.
No.
Well, I'm going to, but I'm
not doing it.
What did they do for AI? Is AI taking out the noise on the cassette? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? It could really be him singing like on the other tapes that they had.
I thought it was assembling his voice and then being able to break up letters and syllables, or he can actually
that's what
sing
it is.
Well, so McCartney can write new lyrics and have John's voice singing it.
Right, but we don't know what type of AI they use. That's such a general term now because so many things are AI.
Right.
Well, so I read a good article about a month ago in the New York Times on AI, and they were spelling it out. And yes, it's not good for music. They agree, but they say, get used to it. It's here to stay. And also get used to the fact that there's going to be producers and record companies that are going to be like, we can make a whole album without a human. Get ready for it. And it's like, but I don't want
to hear a symphony from an artificial. I don't want to hear it.
You know what I think will happen? Let it go. It'll come full circle, and then humans playing music will be the big thing again. Watch, I guarantee you. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's supposed to come from your head, from your heart. You know, it's supposed to come from a human.
Right. So we're going to get a horrible number of years of AI music. And then some kid in Brooklyn's going to say, I recorded this song at home. And it'll be like, wow, a human, right? And it'll be the big thing. Oh, we're going to listen to humans sing. It's just going to come around, you know? But this AI thing is dreadful. Dreadful. They did something Freddie Mercury, too. They did some kind of Queen recording with AI. So. Yeah. Well, by the way, Lou, that song is called This Is a Call from Foo Fighters. I just checked it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. AI, I'm bummed out now.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know what they did. I mean, I've been accused of being a bot, but you know, and I have proof right now that I am not a bot.
I don't know.
I'm going to show you proof right now that I am not a bot. Here goes.
Do it.
Hello, my name is Perry for the Music Relish Show.
See?
Perry, you gotta upgrade your AI there, man. That's very 80s. You sound like that. You sound like that Neil Young album.
Tron.
Like, you know what I mean? If they use a different type of AI to, you know, if it's John Lennon singing on a tape, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But if they took some sample of like him singing like Nowhere Man and unscrambled all the letters and syllables,
I'm not for that, man.
Me neither.
No. It's artificial. So do you want real or do you want artificial? And artificial for the sake of what? I mean, for the listener, you can say the novelty of, well, this is an AI symphony, like you said. There's something going to be too perfect about it.
You know where I think it's
the human element will always be the human element.
You know where I think it's going to be big with artists that died young and didn't have many releases. So you'll probably start seeing like Amy Winehouse. You'll start seeing stuff, you know, and it's going to be.
They've already tried to do it with Jim Morris. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm telling you, if I'm watching something on YouTube, and just the voiceover in the back is AI, I turn it. I want to hear a real person, you know, narrating what I'm watching. I don't want to hear any AI. I turn it right away. So you can just refuse AI. Don't even give it a listen.
That's I agree. Yep. Don't buy it.
The people have the power.
As Patty says.
That's right. They can make all the stuff that they want, but you don't necessarily have to buy it.
Correct. Yeah.
Or just because someone says this is what we're doing now. Yeah. This is the way to go. You know, it's not. Yeah. It's not. Just like we've been talking about, like I want to record 3 people in a room playing instruments.
Yeah.
You know, I want that. I want that feel again.
Yeah.
Feelings.
Exactly.
Well, if you want, Lou, I've got some. I've got two things. I've got 2 things. I've got some band album covers.
Smutty album covers.
That we can talk about. That
Jane, you ignorant slut.
Some are stupid reasons. Some are like obvious reasons. You know, and and I also have there's still locations where it's like some famous album covers were shot to cover photos, and you can still visit some of these places. So I've got a couple of samples of that.
Okay,
but so you want to do some band records first?
Okay. Now we're bearing in mind that we are a podcast, so we'll have to do some extra describing for.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to for instance, Alice Cooper.
Are you going to show them?
I might show them. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
right.
You know, I've got a list here of, for instance, the Beatles. Remember that Beatles, the Meat cleaver,
the butcher block cover, the butcher cover.
block cover, yeah. Like you're like, okay, so that was cool, right? I mean,
it was not a great album cover.
It was not a great album cover, and of course they had to redo it, and there was like them in a steamer trunk or something after that, looking not very happy.
Yeah.
But in the original one, they were probably very stoned. It looks like.
What year was that? So. What 65?
1965. But it wasn't really a Beatle record.
No, but also weren't they were like so sick of the bullshit of the music business, I think at that point. It was kind of like, let's just do something totally fucked up. And I think that's where I came from.
Yeah.
But that was like
it was a pushback on their part.
Yeah.
On Beatlemania.
Yeah. That's what I would think
Yesterday
too.
That was an American release, wasn't it? Or was that English too?
Yeah.
Or was there American English version?
As we all know, that the Capitol Records, if they had 12 songs on a record, Capitol would put 10 and pull 2 back and create, after 3 records, you create another album. And that's what Yesterday and Today is. It's not in the UK. They don't really have an album called Yesterday and Today.
Yeah.
It's Capitol Records in the US and Canada.
And also, they were coming off that they had a big backlash in the United States over the "we're more popular than Jesus" quote, and they, things were like, so they were probably just like, "Fuck this, let's just do something." I understand why they did. It's just it is a bad album cover, but they were just.
But it was funny.
I laughed when I saw it.
Can you put it back up for a second? I have a question. Of all the Beatles, who's having the best time with this album cover?
John.
Look at all their faces. I think it's George.
I think it's George. Yeah, I think he's holding up a doll head in the back.
I know he looks the most natural doing it. I think
Ringo looks a little tentative there. He's kind of like, ugh.
George has become my favorite Beatle.
Always was mine.
Yeah, it kind of rotates with me.
But I think of the last 10, 15 years, more and more his stuff. Also, there was the Martin Scorsese documentary he did, Material World.
Yeah,
seeing that and just reading about him and hearing a lot of his music, and I'm hearing some Cloud9 stuff pop up in the radio.
Great!
What a
great
record!
Yeah.
That's one of the best comeback records of the late 20th century. I mean, the fact that George couldn't do anything right for how many years?
His slide playing,
he knocks one out of the park.
Yeah, his slide playing on that album was mad. That's what. I forget how old it was. That's one of the first CDs I bought too, and just his playing was magical. And some of those songs, yeah, that's great. Yeah. I was a senior in high school.
Yeah. So Perry and we were working at Cordette Graphics when that record came out. Oh. There he is. I think George is all right. Ringo, I think Ringo's the least comfortable.
Yeah.
And for for instance, the Rolling Stones had Beggar's Banquet, right? You all remember that cover?
Yeah,
with the bathroom.
That was banned, right?
That was banned. Yeah, I don't. It was considered, I don't know, repulsive or something like, or maybe because it showed a toilet. I mean, So I guess what happened was they had to package it. When it was packaged, it looked like a wedding invitation or some sort of greeting card type thing
white
that
cover.
They wrapped it. Yeah. Yep.
That is classic BBC bad taste. It's bad taste. We cannot release it. That's probably what happened.
It looks like the bathroom of CBGB's. It's got a crusty toilet. I was just going
to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the roll of toilet paper has been like a cat was playing with it or something. I like that pipe next to the toilet. That's a classy joint.
And then there were some other ones where we can't show them because, YouTube, you can't show naked bodies on YouTube.
For example, the Blind Faith.
The Blind Faith album. The record was just called Blind Faith, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it had a 11-year-old girl or a young girl on the cover, topless,
holding a model airplane.
Yeah.
Which was just strange album cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was banned. So I don't know how they figured that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. Obviously they wouldn't. You couldn't do that. You couldn't do it then. I think that they packaged it with like a piece of masking tape over there. It looked like on the record. Yeah.
The one we're seeing now for those it has a censored bar across Well, was her bare chest, but actually, I think that's young Ginger Baker. I don't think that was even a girl.
Let me see what deal. Let me see what it looks like now. Oh no, it's out with her totally topless.
Well, yeah. Now, of course, yeah, you can do it now with the new box set or something, right? With the new,
yeah, the regular release of it. She's totally. Yeah. I'm surprised. Wow.
Well, we can't show it here, obviously. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. It was repackaged with a picture of them on the cover.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever seen that cover, but it's kind of it reminds me of a band album cover. Band as in BAND.
Yeah.
You know.
And then, of course, there was that infamous John and Yoko, Two Virgins, Unfinished Music, right?
A lot of hair.
Now that was obvious. They knew that it was going to be banned. They
knew
where
my uncle's hairpiece went.
I mean,
and it got repackaged to where like you can just see their faces or something, you know. And
there you go. So yeah, the real album is them full view, full frontal nudity, letting it all hang out, so to speak. That was so daring at the time. That was very daring.
Yeah,
you know. Now, what music is that? What's the music? I mean, I think I've heard of it. Is the music worthy of note?
It's a lot of avant-garde stuff that they did up at his house. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Isn't avant-garde French for bullshit?
Yeah. Yep.
No.
But so that was an obvious one. Like you knew it. Like you wanted to have a band record album cover, you got it.
Yeah. Do you remember what Sir Lou Grade said about that when they put that out?
No.
He said, "At least could have used Paul. He's so much better looking."
Ooh, boy, that's a jab, huh?
That's a jab at John, big time.
Just to show how that album has been kicked aside, I have the Lennon box set of all his albums. That album isn't in there. They didn't even include it in that, so it was never really considered.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably on Apple Records and all that.
What do you guys think of John's solo work?
Hit and miss.
Hit and miss.
I gotta tell you, when I was growing up,
hit and miss.
My age is when I was starting to buy records. It was like 75, 76. So, I had Beatles albums. I never really listened to John Lennon albums. I liked Paul McCartney, being young. When Double Fantasy came out, 79, I was like listening to it. That was like, whoa, that hit me. Okay. And I went back, but I always had trouble with like his stuff. Like some of it was really good. The first album, really good, but I had trouble with the sounds too. I didn't like the sound of his albums. Yes. Very muddy,
Yeah, very muddy. I think and sometimes kind of cold sounding. Whatever gets you through the night. It's a great song, but I think that is not a great recording.
Right.
And I don't know if he produced that. It's very cluttered. It's very compressed. Jim Keltner's playing drums on it, and I'm like, every time I hear it, I'm like, what are the drums doing? They're not doing much, actually, which is not a bad thing necessarily.
Doesn't that song, the way it's done, remind you of like an early Springsteen song? Just too much going on.
It sounds like Blinded by the Light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about it. It's got
what I heard? You know what? Interesting. You know what I heard in the car today? I heard "Growing Up" in the car today.
Growing Up.
That early Springsteen record.
Yeah. It was from
Growing Up, and it was like I didn't hear any guitar. It was mostly all piano.
It's piano. It's an acoustic guitar, piano, bass, and some mushy drumming.
914 Studios.
Mushy drumming, courtey of Vinny Mad Dog Lopez. Yeah, 914 Studios. Yeah.
Yep.
And he loses time slightly.
And in the middle of things, it's just these weird. His fills just go. They fall into nowhere. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
But I think the review of that record said that the drumming it was marred by weak drumming.
Wow.
So one thing, we were talking about that Ginger Baker video with Alex Van Halen earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He said one thing. Ginger Baker said, if your band does not have a good drummer, it doesn't matter how good your guitar player is and how good everybody is. It's just it's going to sink.
Yep.
So that was one thing where the powers that be at Columbia are probably like, you gotta change the rhythm section, either the bass player or the drummer or most. But Gary Tallent's a great bass player, so
yeah.
There's decision. But now Vinny Lopez, you never heard anything where he was.
I was going to say, do you know what happened to him after he left?
Yes. He's a professional caddy. He's caddied for some pretty well-known golfers. The golfers.
Wow.
We're going to kill all the golfers. And so he's actually got up with Bruce on a few occasions and played some of the old stuff. I think
Well,
there's a
some
YouTube
caddies
video.
get 20% of the take.
What's that?
Some caddies get 20% of the purse.
Okay, well, I mean, it looks like he's done well. I mean, he must get some kind of royalties for the first 2 records.
Yeah.
He's not on Born to Run at all.
Yeah. Being a caddy's like being a catcher, where your catcher is in tune with the pitcher, telling him what to do. Caddy is helping, like, what do you want to use? The 5-iron stuff. So they deserve. He probably made more money from doing that.
Right. He's not just carrying some guy's golf bag.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's almost like a consultant. You know, like the Bat Boy.
Yeah.
Well, there's another band album cover by the Scorpions. And what's that called? It's called Virgin Killer. I think
that might be the worst album cover of all time, because
it you can't.
Can we see it?
Obviously, you can't show.
Okay.
Anything uncensored.
I want to specify that if you look at it, you're seeing everything, and if you say that album's cover is fine, you're sick, because it was the photographer's daughter, and she was like 9, right. I think. And he didn't think it was a big deal, but Klaus Meine,
who was he? Who was he?
I don't remember the name, but Klaus Meine said years later, like, we didn't really know about it. All of a sudden, the album came out, like the record company pushed it. I don't know. Germany's a weird country, especially in the 70s. They have different kinds of art.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, now that Blind Faith cover, that is a site you would see in Key West when Europeans visit America. You know, I was over with my wife one time, and there was a young girl about 12, 13 with no top on, just, you know.
Oh, wow.
Family's nonchalant about it, and I was like, no, this isn't right, you know.
We're from New Jersey. We're like, whoa.
So there was another band album cover.
You have to go to Sandy Hook for that kind of stuff.
By Van Halen.
That's where Bruce hangs out.
Van Halen had an album called Balance.
I don't think this is
with Sammy Hagar.
They were clothesless conjoined twins on a seesaw,
but they weren't showing any parts. I know that.
But
does one have an open shoulder wound?
What happened was
it's a photographer's son and a girl. I don't think it's the same people, right? Do you know the story, Perry?
I don't. All I know is on the final cover, the other twin was airbrushed out, and there was only one on a seesaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
yep.
Let me see, because I thought the version I've always seen the one with the twins. I never saw it just with one, but yeah.
What songs are on Balance?
In historical, it was the last album with Sammy, so the relationship had gone sour by then, and I wasn't really following him much then. It was the late 90s, you know, and but let me just look up. Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. They had a couple really good songs on there. They had a ballad on there. I'll tell you in a second. Just give me a second. They were famously on David Letterman during that tour, and they were really good. Can't Stop Loving You. Do you remember that song? Can't Stop Loving You. It's a great pop song. In fact, Eddie doesn't even play with distortion. It's like a clean sounding rhythm. And I think it's Not Enough. That was another one that was as a ballad. I'm not sure, but there were 2 songs on there that were good. It was more of a Sammy Hagar album, in my opinion. Sammy's melodies are all over it. They also had some of the worst Van Halen, like some throwaway tracks. That's unforgivable. They have a song called Amsterdam, which is dumb, you know, and you listen, you're like, But it would, in retrospect, it wasn't a bad album, but could have been a better cover.
Well, then there's just silliness too. Like, for instance, Alice Cooper had a band cover called Love It to Death. So what he did was, the band is on the cover. He stuck his hand down his pants and put his thumb out through his zipper.
A Jim Morrison.
And it's just silliness, but they airbrushed his right arm out on the, like, probably in this country,
Yeah.
So it's called Love It to Death. And it's like, it's just, he put his arm in his pants and his thumb through his zipper, and it was like shocking. Like, they're just being silly, you know.
That album, I got it from one of my sister's boyfriends. He left it at the house, and I played it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
There's a song on there that scared the crap out of me. Black Juju. It's a creepy song. I remember that and Funeral for a Friend. They scared the crap out of me as a little kid. Because Funeral for a Friend had the wind in the beginning, you know, and stuff.
Yeah. There, he had a box set come out too. I think Elton John. They, you know, they remaster these things or they remix them or
timeless. Yeah.
So that was a silly banning that Alice Cooper cover. It's just silly.
Right?
It had to be like America that did that. You know, shocking.
I know that. You see, the Rolling Stones one is more like it's English saying bad taste. It's not nice. But then that Alice Cooper one is it's immoral. What? Yeah. Come on, he's sticking his thumb out.
Yeah. I mean, silliness. Like the Beatle album cover. Like, why couldn't they just leave it? It's like, you know. But of course, it was probably this country where they made them glue over. You know, take a new picture.
Yeah.
Capitol Records insisted. You know, you have to take a new picture.
Yeah. And then it's funny. Alice Cooper is to me funny that he has this really evil persona, but he is the funniest guy in real life. He's a goofball, and I like that about him. So people that thought he was this evil guy, they didn't know him.
Oh no, I heard his manager. I heard a podcast where his manager, Shep Gordon, was the guest, and he was telling stories like he'd go over. Groucho's Alice is laying in bed with Groucho Marx and they're watching movies, you know, like
Shep Gordon was Alice's manager.
Yeah.
Wow. He also managed
Teddy Pendergrass.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, he's funny. And I loved when remember VH1 did the behind the music where they would like you know, they did the story of a band and they would try to accentuate the negatives, like, oh, he went through drug addiction. I laughed because Alice said, he said, I had an addiction. It was Budweiser. I loved beer, but only Budweiser. I drank I think he said he drank like 30 cans a day. And they tried to make that into a big deal, you know?
Yeah, I remember when he was I'd read in like Cream magazine, you know, he spends $30,000 a month on beer.
Alice Cooper,
you know?
Yeah.
So there was I can't believe this is just ridiculous. Like the Mamas and Papas. Remember that album cover where they're all sitting in the bathtub?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no water in the bathtub or anything. It was just the Mamas and the Papas. It was a funny little, cute little cover. That got banned.
Really?
Yeah. It got banned because of the commode. Because of the toilet. Again, there had to be this country that insisted on a capital, you know, whatever company. So they had to airbrush the toilet out on future.
What year was this?
66,
I don't know. What do you think, Lou? 67?
I think it was 66 probably, maybe.
That is a damn good looking bathroom for that year. That's better than any bathroom I've ever had. Look at that tile. It's nice.
And look at the toilet.
Harmless.
You can actually, and the toilet's easy to flush with your foot.
It's harmless.
Perfect handle.
It's completely harmless. You know,
unbeknownst to the record companies and the moral majority, whoever, Denny Doherty and Michelle Phillips are having an affair during this time.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yep.
They were like Fleetwood Mac before Fleetwood Mac was.
Wow.
With that stuff. Oh yeah. There was lots of incestuous intrigue in the Mamas and Papas.
Now, there's a couple more that we can't show. Now, apparently, I never had the record, but apparently, the first record by Bow Wow Wow had Annabelle. She was 14 years old on the cover, naked with the other band members.
Wow.
And apparently that was shocking. In 1981, their first album came out. And she was 14, naked on the cover.
14?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Another one we can't show. Ever see the original artwork for XTC Skylarking?
No.
Don't know.
That may be the one that Todd Rundgren produced.
Mm-hmm.
Well, It's called the. How do you say this? It's got a woman's. It's called. Andy Partridge calls it the pubic hair and flower cover. So, of course, with the remix coming out, it's going to have the original cover, and pretty much it's remixing? I don't know.
Todd Rundgren
maybe
did do
Steve
that.
Wilson.
Steve Wilson did remix the last couple XTCs. He's good friends with Andy, so
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that was a band cover, but
I see
with the new one,
I have it here.
Yeah, it's it's a woman's area with flowers.
It's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah.
And that's for skylarking?
That's from skylarking. Yep. Yeah. So that was it. Hey, Perry, some of these. Yeah.
There's 2 albums that you didn't mention. I'm sorry, I didn't think of them before the show. I told you, but there's 2 albums that come to mind. Do you remember? It's one of my favorite albums, Black Crowes' Amorica. Do you remember that album cover?
No.
It was a female groin, and the panties were an upside down American flag, and there was lots of hair coming out from the panties. And I remember laughing because when it came out, their first album was huge. They were like this big band. The second album was still huge. So that album came out. So Sam Goody, you know how Sam Goody used to put all the records, like 50 of them in the front of the store. So you'd walk into a Sam Goody and you'd see this girl's crotch in your face as you walked into Sam Goody. That was great. But I don't think it got banned. I don't think anything happened. Goody got it. The other one was Roger Waters' Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. It was the Hitchhiker with the bare ass. And the U.S. copies had to have they tried to say, we'll put a sticker on the plastic. No, they had to actually print it with blacked out. You can't have a girl's ass.
Yeah, on Pink Floyd, they couldn't show the man on fire for
Really?
Wish You Were Here. They had to package that in a brown bag or something. Yeah.
Wow.
Is that on the gatefold or is that on the cover?
Cover.
The man on fire.
Was the cover?
Yeah, cover.
So I think that they had to cover up too and put it in a brown sack.
I think sometimes too, when these things happen, it's not always somebody complaining. It's nervous record company executives before it comes out saying, we might have a problem. Like with that Pink Floyd thing, maybe somebody just on the staff said, we may not want to do this. And they force them to. In the case of Roger Waters, the album came out in England first, like most European, most English artists, their albums come out there first, and then the label said, they were told, no, you can't do that, so
yeah, so that was it. But come on, banning that Mamas and Papas album cover, really?
Because that was also before. I think All in the Family kind of broke that wall down, but with the flushing toilet, you couldn't see a toilet. The idea of going to the bathroom didn't exist on television in 1970. Yeah. So in 1966 to show a clean toilet, not like that dirty Rolling Stones toilet.
Yeah, and then that was a nice clean commode. And then they couldn't say pregnant. When Lucy, they had to say she's having a baby. Wow. She's expecting. They couldn't use the word pregnant.
Yeah,
and they did it from separate beds. That's what's really amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rob and Laura Petrie conceived from separate beds.
Lou, sperm can fly.
Like frogs, you throw your sperm around and eggs like frogs.
Until the Bob Newhart show. With Dr. Bob Hartley. Yeah.
No, but just seeing, hey, Lucy.
Jezebel.
I caught it, Ricky.
Well, there's still a lot of album cover locations that you can visit.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, like that House of the Holy. You told me that was someplace in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that cover. That cover's artistic. You know what I mean?
It not didn't have any
the
controversy.
Blind Faith cover or
Yeah.
That's a bit different.
No, we also did questionable album covers recently too. These weren't banned, but they were in questionable taste.
Yeah.
Serious questionable taste.
I think one that was banned, and I agree. Not that I'm into any kind of censorship, but because the band are just such fucking assholes, was Appetite for Destruction. Have you ever seen the original album cover?
Yeah, that was a band cover.
The girl
also,
obviously had been raped. Her panties are under it, and then the skeleton's above her. And like that's a shit. Like here we are. We just want to offend everybody. Again, I'm not against censorship, but maybe. And then I actually liked what they replaced it with. That classic album cover is probably better.
Right. Yeah, of course, of course. They didn't have to do that.
Sometimes there's an attempt, to
that 80s, trying to shock everybody,
Yeah.
Bad boys. Heavy
but there's
metal,
a lot
hard
of
rock,
locations out there where you can, where like famous album covers were shot. And you can visit them too. Some are, there's some are, some are in New York City. For instance, does this look familiar to anyone? This is somewhere down in Greenwich Village.
Neil Young. Neil Young.
It's in Greenwich Village on Sullivan Street.
Is that Neil Young's album cover?
Well, let's see what we have.
Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Nope, it's Neil Young. After the Gold Rush. Yeah.
I recognize that fence. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah. And you can visit that, and people do. Tourists go. What's that?
Who's the other person
That's
walking?
That's just some guy walking by or something. Yeah.
Wow. Like a little person?
Yeah, and apparently in the original one, it got cropped out, but Graham Nash is like, a couple of feet behind him or something.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Graham Nash was there?
They were probably just walking down the street in a village or something, but the photographer, needed an album cover, and then he kind of phased out his face or something, did a little effect on it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks almost like a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, like a match print. Yep. Oh, Lou, we're going into those Cordet color system terms, right?
That's right. Match print. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Match print
Chromalin.
20. They were
match
good band.
print. Yep. All right. How about this? Here's another location. Look familiar to anyone? It's Mayfair Street in London.
What's the story? Morning Glory by Oasis.
It is.
I don't know.
The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
Looks different now.
Yeah.
Well, it's just cropped. You can see the building in the back, though. It's still just cropped. And this one is a power plant, apparently, that you can still visit.
I know where you're going with this. Animals. Battersea. Battery.
That's Pink Floyd, Animals, yeah.
And
it's an actual power plant out there, yeah.
Where's the power plant? Where is it?
London.
It's in
London.
the UK.
London. It's on the Thames. And that pig, when they were flying it, did you ever hear the story? It actually got away from them. And it had to be shot down because it was so big that it could have affected an airplane. They fucked that one up.
Chinese spy pig.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, right.
Balloon pig.
Great album, dark. And if you see the movie Children of Men, did you guys ever see that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm telling you both. Look it up. Watch it. Number one, it's a great movie. Check out the major Pink Floyd reference because that's a location in it. It's a great movie.
Okay, how about this apartment building? It's in New York City.
Isn't that the Dakota?
That's an apartment building somewhere midtown, I think.
Rosemary's
it was a cover of Physical Graffiti.
Let's see. It is.
Yep.
Physical Graffiti.
Yep.
Yeah. And also, it was used in the video for Waiting on a Friend by the Rolling Stones when they're walking down the street, that same apartment building.
Yeah. Tourists flock to these places.
What's that?
What's that?
I thought the fence picture was the Rolling Stones, but it was after the Gold Rush.
Yeah.
What Stones, which Stones did you think it was?
I thought it was Waiting on a Friend. That's what I thought it was. But that's actually in a doorway.
I remember hearing that video was shot in Maxwell's in Hoboken.
Really?
But the
bar scene, yeah.
The part where they're on the street is that building that was used for Physical Graffiti.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one or two. I got two more famous album covers. Let's see if you can guess this one. I think I might have a little close up coming up.
Is it ELP?
Stumped.
Give us a hint.
I can't.
All right. According to our listeners, it's just an English building with sidewalk leading up to the front door, arched terrace. Now I'm stumped.
Can't.
It was moving pictures.
Wow.
Yeah. Can we see a before and after again?
Yeah.
Okay. So the entrance way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The archway.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
Gee, Lou, we're not Rush fans. We suck.
Yeah. Right. Jesus Christ. That is an amazing album.
Yeah. On one of their last tours, I didn't see their last tour, but the last time I saw them, they actually revisited that site to do like a live video of them moving the pictures. So that was cool to see. Oh, wow. Like, yeah.
On a side note, I listened to Signals the other day.
Yeah.
Great record.
Yeah, it is.
I watched Full Metal Jacket the other day.
I did too.
It's the birthday of the baby Jesus.
Happy birthday to you.
Are you a killer?
Yeah.
How tall are you? Perry, how tall are you?
I don't know. They stack shit that high.
Was he nominated for an Oscar for that? We're going Music Relish show movie. Was he nominated for an Oscar?
Vincent D'Onofrio's first movie.
Me so horny.
No, I think Mystic Pizza was before that.
Yeah.
Yes.
He gained 80 pounds for the movie.
Right. And remember, I said, what is Private Joker's name? What is his name?
Yeah, I don't know.
Matthew Modine.
JT Davis. You can see it on the back of his sweatshirt.
Yeah.
As him and Cowboy are helping Lawrence along, he's in the middle, but you can see his name.
He got Vincent D'Onofrio the gig. Matthew Modine. Yeah, they were friends from down in the village.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've got one more. Let's see if you can guess this location.
Jeff Hotel. Aqualung.
Black Sabbath's debut album.
That is I forgot the name of the mill, but it's still there. And that is Black Sabbath's debut album cover. Yeah. Yep, with the green lady at the witchy lady.
It's imprinted in my memory. It's such a haunting album cover.
I think it's very pastoral. I'm surprised Black Sabbath would have. Was the finished product kind of did they make it gloomier or make it more?
They did.
Yeah, they had a fog machine there, and
then the model came out and it was like a 30-something degree morning, like you get in England, and the fog machine didn't really work, but they did treatments to the picture, so it's kind of like I don't know, Perry. Would you go? It's like orangish. It looks like those old horror movies. The way they would change. You remember, like in a movie, in the 60s or 50s, if they were filming during the day, but they wanted to make it look like it was night, they would just like change the I don't know, the exposure, and it kind of looked creepy, you know. And that's what the album cover looks like, and that's haunted, whatever that building is.
Yeah, well, the art department, changes the kind of the hue of it or the contrast, and they do they do what they do, right?
For years, people were like, that was a real witch on the album cover. It turned out she was just a model, and she's like, hey, I got $20 for the day.
Wow.
So she got 20 quid.
20 quid, yeah.
Yeah. And some pence.
Not Mike.
Some reckon pence. Mike pence.
A shilling.
A hay pence.
A shilling.
So, so that's all about I've got, guys.
That was fun.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we transition to something here?
Yeah.
Kind of late. Last entry in.
I'm gonna chew on my pen.
I've been hearing this song we've all heard before. It's a novelty song, but I've heard it a couple times on the radio, so that just makes me think you gotta give it some heed, some credence. The song's called Alley Oop by the Hollywood Argyles.
Alley Oop boop.
Well, this cat's name was Alley Oop. I got a sample here. I don't know if it'll come across. It's from YouTube. It was from the Dick Clark show. So I'm gonna. Last time I tried playing my phone into it, this didn't come across. So I'm gonna do a little test here.
I think you'll have fun. We have some silly things planned for you. The last time we were here, we put Wayne Eddy up on an elephant, and we did strange and wonderful thing. So tonight we arrive on the coffee wagon. And I think that we have probably the strangest opener we've ever had. This is a tune that originated here in Los Angeles. Gary Paxton and his friend the Hollywood Argyle put it together, and in some areas already it's the #1 record, and it's rapidly getting there all across the nation. It's really happy sort of song. Let's greet them now with a thing called Alley Oop. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hollywood Argyle. That's a man in the funny papers we all know. He lived back a long time ago. Don't. Well, this cat name is Abby.
So the video of this is from the Dick Clark show. It's like these mock cavemen walking around. The band's not performing it, but
Really?
it's just. I mean, yeah, that there's all over the oldies stations as we were growing up. But it's a weird kind of song. It's a one-off thing. But the lyrics are weird. It was based upon an old comic strip. And what was the guy's name?
Dallas Frazier.
It was like VT Hamlin.
That sounded live though. Were they like who was?
It did. Well, it was weird because it was the Dick Clark. It was American Bandstand, but it was the video. It sounded like a live recording, but the band they were just acting out. There was no musicians playing.
So it was a backing track. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a caveman say. Yeah, it was a very live sounding backing track. They weren't lip syncing. But it was a comic strip called Alley Oop by a guy named VT Hamlin. But the band was called the Hollywood Argyles. So this song came out in 1960. It was a #1 Billboard hit. It was on the charts for like 15 weeks. It was number 24 in the UK singles. Written by a guy named Dallas Frazier. Have you ever heard of him? He's a country songwriter. He wrote that in 57. So he wrote There Goes My Everything for Jack Green. It was Grammy nominated. He wrote Elvira. So the guy that wrote Alley Oop wrote Elvira.
Elvira.
Yep. Right. And he had a #1 hit for Charlie Pride with All I Have to Offer You Is Me. And Beneath Still Waters was covered by Emmylou Harris, which I think was a bit of a hit for her. Well, he wrote the song, but it was covered by this mock band, the Hollywood Argyles. There was another little studio ensemble that they ended up using a name. So Dick Clark mentioned it was written. It was performed by the Hollywood Argyles and by a guy named Gary S. Paxton. The co-producer was Kim Fowley, so we know who Kim Fowley was.
Yeah.
Manager of the Runaways
in the business. Yeah.
Impresario. Yeah. Manager of Runaways. I think he managed the Bangles as well. But so the drummer was Ronnie Silko. Piano was Gaynor Hodge from the Penguins, kind of like an old 50s group. Bass was played by a guy named Harper Cosby. A guy named Sandy Nelson played the garbage can, so I think that sound you clean. Sandy Nelson had drum hits in the 60s. Let There Be Drums. He had some they were kind of novelty drum songs, but he did a lot of album work as well. So Kim Fowley, anyway, was just a very controversial figure. But it's kind of a cool song. I just thought I like the novelty songs. I like that weird kind of.
You're a novelty fan, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when novelty hits #1, and there's like itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini. There's that kind of stuff. But Alley Oop had a little bit. There's something weird to it, almost like what was the guy that did I Put a Spell on You? The original guy that did that.
Screaming Jay Hawkins.
Man. Screaming Jay Hawkins.
Yeah.
Where there was something real, and there were some real elements of like tribal, dark side rock and roll there. But it had a novelty flair to it.
Yeah.
But
that was almost voodoo like.
Yeah. Well, those videos are great. The Screaming Jay Hawkins stuff. I mean, he's got that whole. I mean,
but even like the chicka boom. That's kind of a 10 years after.
Yeah.
Or years later. Almost a decade later, there's still that kind of stuff is still going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
With Daddy Dewdrop.
Right. I think the little tentacles of that, were interesting. Kim Fowley, and he's someone we could cover. because he did a lot of stuff.
I'm reading up on him right now.
He did a lot of producing. I mean, the Runaways, a lot of sexual misconduct allegations against him. There was a couple movies. I don't know if they did a Runaways movie, but
they did. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
If he was involved in the Bangles, the Bangles' first album is a phenomenal record.
Right. Well, Michael Steele, basically the Bangles, said she got fired because she refused his advances. Of course, people dispute that. But I'd say it's a cool sounding song, and the musicians on it were not unknown. They were pretty well known guys in their own right.
Yeah,
but they had this song, and it was you could do that in 1960. You could have kind of a goofy song, and you can see it to its fruition and have it be a number one hit, for a spell.
Yep.
So that was we haven't done any one hit wonders in a while, so I thought that was an interesting one, especially since I've been hearing it. And when you're not expecting something like that, you think it sounds stupid, oop, boop, out. But some of the lyrics are pretty funny. I read the lyrics about eating bearcat stew, and you're gonna club your head before you can count to 4. All kinds of weird stuff.
That's a real country writer, right there.
Now the original version, and he wrote it in '57. It was a country song, so it had a different beat, probably. This cat's name was Allie. Not too much different, but the instrumentation on this is interesting.
Like you said, Elvira, that's kind of a silly, pop. It's almost in the same vein.
It is. I think it's a novelty.
Yeah.
Not as bad as My Ding-a-Ling, but
who was that anyway? The Statler Brothers or
the Oak Ridge Boys?
The Oak Ridge Boys.
That was the Parkridge Boys, wasn't it?
Hey, Perry.
Wow. Partridge Family.
Oh.
Do you guys? How familiar are you guys with Pulp Fiction?
Very,
very much.
All right. So what's the Statler Brothers song that's being played when Bruce Willis runs into the pawn shop?
Is it Flowers on the Wall or something?
That's it. Yeah.
I heard it. Flowers on the wall.
Well, I heard it on Dwight Yoakam's Sirius XM channel the other day, and now I can never listen to that song without getting a shudder because I think of that guy.
Where are you now? What is the scene that song is used?
So he runs in there and he's being chased by Ving Rhames' character.
Wait, who's he that's being chased?
Bruce Willis's character is being chased by Ving Rhames, and they fight. And then the guy behind the counter, he knocks Bruce Willis off, but then he knocks out Ving Rhames and he brings him down to the basement. And next thing is the Gimp.
Right, but the song is playing when he's in the car. So he's in the car. He thinks he's getting away. He's at the intersection.
Also in the pawn shop too, because when he goes to the pawn shop,
maybe it carries over, but it starts in the car.
Oh,
when he runs it, because he's in the car. He turns the radio on. He's got that. So he's singing along with it, and he sees Ving Rhames in the intersection.
That's right, because he's driving, and he goes, he got his watch, so he's all happy, and he hears the song. He goes, that's right. We're rocking, we got it. Mm-hmm. And then when they go in the pawn shop, the guy behind the counter is listening to it. He looks like he's praying. He's all in rapture.
God!
It's the Statler Brothers.
Ouch! Did you see this Adam Sandler movie called Rough Diamonds?
No, I heard it's good.
He owns a jewelry store, and he's a gambler, bad gambling addiction. And he played the character so well that the character was so annoying. He got shot in the head at the end of the movie, and I was kind of glad.
Wow,
that's how good he was, and that's how good he was. And it was also Eric Bogosian was in it as well. Yeah,
he can play a totally unlikable character like nobody else.
Who?
Eric. Yeah, he's good. He's a good actor.
Well, for those who haven't seen it, he meets a similar demise in the movie.
You just ruined it for us. Great.
What's the name of the movie now?
It's called Rough Diamonds.
Rough Diamond.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now, in that Statler Brothers song, what are the most interesting lyrics?
I don't know.
Flowers on the wall.
Smoking cigarettes and watching Captain Kangaroo. Like some guys in a hotel watching Mr. Green. I think it was losing. I think it was losing your mind.
Who wrote that? Shel Silverstein? Or
maybe I don't know. I don't know what the gist of that song is, but watching Shadows on the Wall. Like like smoking. It's not like you're in a mental institution or
Hello,
something.
walls.
Do you know what?
Balls.
Do you know what song Shel Silverstein wrote that Johnny Cash had a big hit with?
Boy named Sue.
Boy named Sue.
Oh boy. No pun intended.
Well, my dad lived home when I
Lou,
was
anything but Sue. And a bit off a piece
and that
of
was
my ear.
1970, I would think, right? Somewhere around there,
like
68,
that,
70. Yep.
Yeah, well, didn't he write My Ding-a-ling also? Shel Silverstein?
Oh boy.
I don't know. I thought Chuck Berry wrote that piece of crap.
That's a total piece of crap. No, that really is. That's not even funny tongue in cheek. That's just dumb.
Oh, Shel Silverstein wrote
The
cover of the Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone. Yeah, yep. I believe he wrote that for Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show.
5 copies for my mother.
Yeah.
Dr. Hook, they ended up having disco hits.
He may have written Sylvia's Mother, too. Shel Silverstein.
They also covered, they did that song too, right?
That's a good song. No, I mean,
yeah.
Mark, did Shel Silverstein write Sylvia's Mother Says by Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show?
Is a song called Sylvia's Mother?
Song is called Sylvia's Mother.
So,
yeah.
All right.
Because he was a novelty writer, too, not unlike Alley Oop. And he wrote a lot of novelty songs.
Songwriter is Shel Silverstein. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That was a big hit, and that was like a serious song. Yeah.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, he did that too. I'm looking up My Ding-a-ling.
Well, if you're going to listen to My Ding-a-ling, the live version in England is the best version. Because you hear all the English people going, oh my God, what's he singing about?
And apparently that was like the biggest hit he had. That means he made the most money on it because he didn't make money on the other ones.
Yeah. That was his biggest hit.
That was his version of 7 Dirty Words from George Carlin, you know?
Oh, no. It was written and recorded by Dave Bartholomew. It was covered by Chuck Berry in 1972 and became his only #1 Billboard Hot 100.
You got to be kidding me.
His only #1.
That late in his career.
Who are we?
Wow. My Ding-a-ling. It was actually
later that year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So later that year, also guitarist Ani McIntyre and drummer Robbie McIntosh, who later that year went on to form the Average White Band, played on the single along with Nick Potter of Vandergraaf Generator.
Wow,
we've heard of that band.
Yeah,
we've mentioned Vandergraaf Generator.
I've heard that in a conversation in the past. Yeah.
English prog rock band formed in 1977 in Manchester by Peter Hamill and Chris Judge Smith on Charisma Records.
Wow.
Yeah, Vandergraaf Generator. I mean, I think there were past members, nobody. But anyway.
Well, so you guys want to wrap the show up?
Yeah. Can I say something?
We're about wrapped up.
Can I say something? Since it's like, if anyone's still listening, as Scott always says, like, God bless you. I want to thank my son Anthony for Father's Day giving me this wonderful CD, Tom Petty at the Fillmore 4-CD set. I've only listened to the first disc. I've heard about this set. It's considered by many people one of the box sets you have to own. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. It's good. It's good.
Cool.
I only through the first CD, and I'm just like, really good. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony, thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
Happy Father's Day.
I dropped it.
Now, Music Relish Show is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We lost the visual. Like it was too late. Can you put up again? Music Relish Show is available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, Overcast, Podcast, and YouTube. You can see us there. But that was a fun show.
It was.
It was a good show. Yeah. It was a
2
good
hours
show,
of
and
good,
we'll
fun.
kick in the closing theme.
Mark
right?
only had 3 glasses of wine.
We go to the Music Relish Show, presented by Mark Smith, Lou Colicchio, and Perry Dedovich.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you like our show, you can see something like our show. Check out Milk Crates and Turntables with your host, Scott McLean, and frequent guest, myself and Mark Smith. And some AI guy that keeps on popping up.
And if you go on our Facebook page, songs that we talk about like Alley Oop or even Flowers on the Wall, I'll post the links to them. So if you don't know these songs, you can listen to them.
Yep.
And this is that song with a horrible guitar solo.
that will never be
And remember to rage against the cafe whenever you can.
That's
Coming
right.
soon, folks. Rage Against the Cafe.
Coming to a cafe near you. Beware.
Yeah, so we covered tonight. We did what? Band album covers.
We did band album covers.
We talked about Christy McNichol. Was that who we talked about?
And her brother Jimmy McNichol. We talked about band album covers. We did some trivia, verbal and picture. We did some random relish. Album review. Mark reviewed a Black Sabbath live album.
Black Sabbath, what is it? Live Evil.
Right, we talked about Ringo replacement wannabe Jimmy Nicol, who played 8 Beatle concerts in Australia in 1964 and played really well.
Yep. And I'm going to stick my finger in his alligator jaws.
The alligator oop. And then we spoke about the Hollywood Argyles with their one-hit wonder, the number one song, Alley Oop.
Alley Oop Oop.
Well, this cat's name was Alley Oop, like a dinosaur. Ate a bear cat stew.
Down.
Is that Slack Babbitt?
It's Slack Blabbeth.
That's a good tribute band name, Slack Babbitt.
So who's the drummer? Vinny Appice?
Vinny Appice, there he is.
The brother of who?
Carmine.
The drummer.
Was brother's a drummer too?
Carmine Appice.
Oh, it's Carmine.
Yeah.
Who played with who did he play with?
Vanilla Fudge.
Vanilla Fudge and
Rod Stewart.
Strawberry Alarm Clock.
No, Rod Stewart. Didn't he co-write Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Yes, he
I thought it was
co-wrote Do You Think
another,
I'm Sexy. Absolutely.
I thought it was a flavor thing, Vanilla Fudge, Strawberry Alarm Clock. 1910 Fruit Gum Company.
How about the chocolate Subway or the marshmallow overcoat?
You guys.
The chocolate watch band. That was a real band.
Fare thee well, everyone.
Take it easy. Bye.